All right, guys, so here I am, happy to be joined by first-time pro tips streamer Enchatin. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. How are you, Ash?
I am doing fantastic. Happy to have you on. You're known for your high energy, at times high rage, but also really skilled and super articulate, very savvy game knowledge as well. So I'm really excited to have you on today, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be on.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to go over some replays here. I'm going to go ahead and start the first one against Marcel P, who's another frequent guest of the channel. Obviously, everybody knows who he is, a great player. And what I want to really hone in on, instead of going pro tips on a specific deck, even though we can maybe say a few words about the deck that you're using, I kind of really wanted to dig into Elixir management and how to avoid Elixir wastage with you today. As a top player in the game, I think you have a lot of opinions on it and maybe some practices that people can implement into their gameplay to see immediate return in terms of skill or doing better. So why don't we start off by just basically, what is Elixir wasting and Elixir management, and what are some really simple, just base level tips that you can give to people to kind of think a little bit more about their Elixir and when not to use things and when to use them for good value?
Well, I think one of the main things that people need to understand about Elixir and Elixir management is sometimes your tower is your most important resource in a game. If you're let's just say, you're down 2 Elixir and somebody's coming with a 3/4 life Musketeer down your lane, and the only thing that you can do is either zap it or log it. Sometimes it's best to take the 300-400 damage that Musketeer is going to do in order to still be down 2 Elixir. Because sometimes you zap it, now you're down 4 Elixir, let's just say they have a pump or something like that, and then they just snowball into a big push that there's nothing you can do to counter it. Especially, I see a lot of people who use a zap on that kind of situation where now the opponent has a Skarmy and you're playing like a giant deck or a very heavy deck to where you're going to slow roll your whole entire push that dies to an entire Skarmy because you don't have, an answer, either a zap or a log or something like that. So you definitely want to just make sure that your tower that you have, it can go down to 1 HP in a game and you can win. You got to remember that. So if you win a game with your tower at half life and, you win, your tower still has, 1800 life that it could go that could give you an Elixir advantage, throughout the game. And also leaking Elixir is very big. You want to play a card 90% of the time when you're at 9.5 Elixir. Sometimes, you can't play a card and you have to leak a little bit of Elixir because you don't know what he's going to play. But you have to understand when you're ahead in Elixir and when you're behind. Because if you start leaking Elixir when you're ahead by like 3 Elixir, it helps them catch up. And I see that a lot of time when you're indecisive and you're sitting at 10 and they're at 7. And all of a sudden now they're at 8.5, 9, and you start playing a card now. You give them 2 Elixir, which doesn't seem like much, but that 2 Elixir can either be 100 damage with a zap or something like that can, change the game. A lot of games are, you see it on TV all the time where the games are won or lost by 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 HP, and that's a zap, that you could have saved with, that 2 Elixir.
Very true. Now, does it depend, does the archetype that you're playing against or the deck that you're playing against, does it depend on how much damage you're willing to take to your tower? For example, against a chip deck or against a really aggressive maybe Hog Cycle deck during the first 2 minutes, you kind of want to mitigate some of the damage that they're able to do, especially if you're playing like a heavier deck. So are you more apt to take damage versus some decks and others, or is it just anytime you find yourself at an Elixir disadvantage, you kind of deal with it then, okay, do I want to take a little bit of damage to my tower to regain some of that Elixir?
Well, it definitely does depend. Minor chip, you definitely don't want to take that much damage, especially in the first 2 minutes of a game, because that's when minor chip isn't really strong. It isn't really strong at the first 2 minutes of the game. So you want to just make sure your tower is as healthy as humanly possible, Like try to keep it at max life. That way they need to go all the way down your entire tower with rocket miners when once they start throwing out rockets and miners, you can have a little bit of an Elixir advantage, go on the counter push and like finish their tower off. Hog as well. It depends if you're playing a building. If you're playing like something like a Tombstone, you don't want to really take that much damage because in 2x Elixir, it's really easy to kill a Tombstone and kill your tower. If you're playing something like a Furnace, you can afford to take a lot of damage from a Hog early on because your Furnace at double Elixir is not going to really die to a Hog unless it's a Hog Lightning. But even then, if they have a Hog Lightning and you have like a Skarmy minions or something like that, they can't really zap it all down. But definitely versus big, heavy tank decks, you could take a lot of damage early. Decks that rely on my giant needs to get your tower or I'm not going to win the game. Because you give them a lot of damage, say if your tower's still at half life, they're not going to be able to kill that tower unless their giant gets through. You have to realize that. So you could do a lot of chip on his, opposing lane and then worry about it, afterwards, the damage. As long as your tower's still at like half life going into double Elixir and you did a lot of damage to their other side, it's a big heavy deck that has to get to your tower. So you can swarm it, you can use a lot of units, to distract the giant. So definitely versus heavy, tank decks to where, it relies on a golem getting to your tower, a giant getting to your tower, a P.E.K.K.A getting to your tower. You could definitely afford to take a lot more damage than, say, a minor chip or a hog, as far as that's concerned.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. How about back to the whole leakage idea? Obviously, it's when you're sitting at full elixir and you're just sitting there, either waiting for your opponent to make a move, or maybe if you do have the elixir advantage, you're just, essentially just totally wasting your elixir, which is very bad. I'm curious, how do you handle, the first play of the match in terms of maybe you don't have a great hand, maybe there's no obvious play. Would you rather just play minions or something behind your tower than wait for the opponent to make the first move, or do you like reacting for the very first move?
Well, actually, on our third replay that we have, I was in a terrible rotation in the beginning, and then we'll be able to see where I was literally in a situation where I had to drop minions, giant graveyard into a P.E.K.K.A, and then had to defend with everything I had because I would have leaked 8 elixir if I didn't. Sometimes you have to just use the elixir to try to get as much as you can out of it, as much damage as you can. But sometimes you're really gonna get hit hard with a counterattack. You have to use your elixir as wisely as possible. Sometimes there isn't a great play to use an elixir. Sometimes you're going to have to throw minions in the back that are just going to have to die. You're going to have to waste 3 elixir. But what you want to do is you want to throw those minions in the side to where your healthier tower is. That way, hopefully they zap those minions or something like that. So you only lose like 1 elixir. You don't leak anything. And they're on the weak side. Because if you throw it on, the tower where your tower is already like at half life, and the other tower's at full for you, what they're going to do is they're just going to throw like a musketeer or something in the back, or maybe even take that full damage from the minions that you throw out, and then just have a huge counterattack. So you want to just make sure that you always throw elixir that you're going to just throw away because you have no other play in your tower that has the strongest life lane.
Okay, that's good. That's a good tip there. So just looking at your profile, by the way, and wow, that's a lot of cards won, man. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
Almost 300K. Awesome. All right, so what I wanted to do is, you just mentioned the third replay, how you had to kind of get out of a bad cycle. So I thought it actually might be kind of advantageous to viewers out there, maybe to actually just give a quick play-by-play, if that's cool with you. Are you?
Yeah, no, perfect, yeah.
All right, I'm just going to pause it right at the beginning, and we've already seen the deck that you're running. It's a giant graveyard deck, and whenever you're good to go, I'll just kind of press play, and I'll just ask you some questions as we go over the replay.
All right, let's do it.
All right, sweet. So how do you feel about this starting hand?
This starting hand is one of those starting hands where you can either minions, giant at the bridge graveyard, which is not a great play when you don't know his hand, or just throw a musketeer out and see what he's doing. So I throw a musketeer out right now, and I see that he's a P.E.K.K.A, and I'm like, oh no, this is a hard counter deck. Anytime somebody's got a P.E.K.K.A and you got a giant, it ain't gonna go well. Yep. So right now, I have to switch lanes, because I'm not going anywhere near that P.E.K.K.A. Okay. So I drop minions in the back, got a giant. I'm gonna try to kill this left side tower before he can really do anything in this match. Because
so you unload all your elixir there.
Yeah, I dump everything because I know I'm hard countered. I also know I have a Skarmy. So I'm going to drop the Skarmy on this P.E.K.K.A. I'm going to wait, though, until he has 0 elixir. You see how he waited till he dropped his Executioner at 0 elixir so he couldn't log my Skarmy.
I'm going to pause real quick because that's actually a good point there, that you weren't super aggressive on that Skarmy. You waited a while there, and that's really a next level play, even though it doesn't look like it. Because some people would have, immediately dropped that Skarmy, or maybe dropped the Skarmy towards the center of their arena early on, and they would have taken, they ended probably he would have had enough Elixir to play that log, and you would have been, really in a trouble spot there.
Yeah, if he logged me right there, that P.E.K.K.A would have taken my whole entire tower, because it was a full life P.E.K.K.A walking down the lane.
Exactly. Instead, look at it. I mean, you took his tower and he did no damage to you, so that was huge. I'm gonna resume here.
Okay. Yeah, and now you can see that I'm ahead in Elixir, but he has a full, like a level 8 Executioner. That's not something you ever want to play in ladder.
No. What level is yours, by the way?
5.
5. All right. Yes. All right, so it's coming at you in the left here. You do a pretty good job stopping it with the furnace there, or at least mitigating some of that damage.
And here's the big thing right here. This Executioner has a half-life. I don't zap it. I know I'm down in Elixir right now because I had to do that. I have to take that damage. It was only, 800 damage I took from that Executioner? It doesn't seem like a lot, but if I zapped, I would have been down, 4 Elixir right now? 5 Elixir? It would have been too much to come back from, especially. Now, here's where it gets tricky. I have no play. I have no play whatsoever. I'm not going for the 3 crown because I'm never going to get it with 2 towers up. So I have to sacrifice minions in the back. But here's what I do, though. I drop a giant graveyard on him right now. I know I'm going to get rocked with the counterattack, so I'm not going to waste any more Elixir on this because I know the big bad P.E.K.K.A is coming down the lane, and I have to somehow stop this. And look at this. He has, what is this, 7, 4, 11? Oh, he's got 16 Elixir on the board, plus more coming. And here's where it gets where you have to place the perfect units, guys. Furnace all the way to the left, pulling everything over there. This Skarmy I have to put all the way to the left. I wait until the Executioner locks onto my tower. It still does a lot because it hits everything in the back. And then I put a giant there to just stop the Prince charge.
Wow. And that was awesome defense there, man.
Yeah, that was good. But now I still got another attack, though, because now he's got his Executioner that's going to kill my giant, and now he's still got 5 Elixir on me. And I still got to somehow defend this.
And I thought it was very interesting how you reset with the giant graveyard there. Just to get your rotation back up, get Skarmy back up, and kind of stop him a little bit.
Yeah, I have to, you got to try to get your rotation back up as best as possible. And then, I graveyarded right in the middle to distract. And right now it's just please don't die for 10 seconds. That's what this is.
And then the giant comes down there helping out. P.E.K.K.A finally goes down 3, 2, 1, and you did it, man. That was nice. I like that.
Yeah, that was all because I let the Executioner at 3/4 life do 800 damage to my tower. If I didn't have that extra 2 Elixir on that push that he had with that P.E.K.K.A, and when I had the really bad cycle on the right-hand side, I wouldn't have been able to defend that because he would have had 2 more Elixir on that push. That's an extra log on me. And I would not have been able to stop that push without that 2 extra Elixir.
Wow. That was awesome, man. Good job on that.
Thank you.
Why don't we go ahead and you did have a few things you wanted to talk about in terms of 2 events coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about the Adult Esports tournament and the Pro vs. Joe series?
Yes, the Adult Esports Invitational, it's going to start on February 10th, which is Friday. It's going to consist of 5 10,000 gem tournaments, which is going to be 1,000-player tournaments that the top places in each will then qualify for a bracket. So we're going to be doing the top 8 spots in each will qualify for a bracket. The top seeded players in each will get a bye into the second round into the bracket. Once it goes into the bracket stage, you're going to then play. It's going to be single elimination, best of 1 for the first 2 rounds, then best of 3, then best of 5 for the final. And then it's going to go into the top 6 players into that, go into a 6-player round robin, which will then consist of 6 players playing each other one time. The best 2 records play each other, and the first place wins, I think, 10,000 gems. The second place wins 7,500, whoever wins out of that. And the third and the fourth players, best records out of the round robin will play, and they'll compete for third place, which is going to be 5,000 gems.
Nice. Solid prize pool, too.
Yes.
So where can people find out more about that? Is there a website? Do they just tune into your stream, Twitter?
Yes. They could check out, we actually have a trailer on YouTube for it, which is on my YouTube at Enchatin. And then we have a discord.gg/adult esports. There's everything on that Discord that you want to know. It tells you exactly what time each qualifier is, who's streaming it, and when. And then it tells you a breakdown of the entire tournament in that Discord.
Awesome. Okay. And what about the Pro V Joe? And by the way, guys, I'll have all the links as always to all this stuff in the show notes in the description.
Yes. My Pros versus Joe series. I started it last week. And it had very great reviews and everybody liked it. It's pretty much a tournament where I'm trying to get people who aren't known, who think they're, pros or whatever, that are free to play, that don't have, the exposure, the trophies to get into these big clans and everything like that. And I want to let them have a chance to where they can place in one of these 10,000-man tournaments and then qualify to play versus the best players in the game to show, what they're worth, to show if they have what it really takes and hopefully, win a couple of games and, start
awesome.
Getting known and get into a top clan and getting their name out there, getting better. Because it's very hard if you have 3,000 trophies to get into a Synergy and Nova and Elite Gaming and Adult Esports, one of these clans that, have a lot of great players in it who it's really hard to try people out. I'm sure that, it's really hard, to invest a lot of time in trying a lot of people out because everybody wants to try out. But, not that many can make it in, Yeah. So it's only, 50 people in a clan. So what I want to try to do is I want to try to get people as much exposure as possible. So what it is it's 2 qualifying 1,000-man tournaments. The top either 4 or 8. I haven't exactly decided how many people I want to get in from those qualifying tournaments. We'll then go on to a bracket stage where there'll be 16 hand-picked pros of the game waiting for them.
Nice. I like it.
Waiting for them to play.
Yeah.
And then that'll be like $100 bracketed tournament to where if they win, they'll get $100 as well. So that'll
awesome.
be big names like Marcel P, Surgical Goblins, Pompeos of the world, Backstab. There'll be all these players that you'll be playing against. The Diego B's. Everything. That you want, you want,
dude,
to see
a really cool idea because like you said, so many people reach out to me too and they're like, I'm a really good player, Ash, can I be on a Pro v Pro? And the thing is, it's difficult, right? Because it's difficult for me and them because if I just start taking a bunch of people who I've never personally seen, but it's not their fault either because like you said, it's kind of difficult to get noticed. I'm sure there's hundreds of really, really good players out there who we just don't know because like maybe their cards aren't leveled up or maybe they can't, get into the tournaments where some of us happen to notice them, So it's definitely a great idea. I'm really looking forward to that. I'd love to, cover some of the replays or something if you'll have me. It sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you want to, come in and definitely do it on YouTube, yeah, no problem. If you want to put it on YouTube, because I don't really do that much YouTube. I'm trying to get into it, but it's just right now I have like 3 jobs, so it's almost impossible for me to get, the YouTube done. But if you want to come in and, do the semis and the finals or the whole thing, put it on YouTube, cut it up, clip it up, that'd be great. I would not mind that at all.
Yeah, man, for sure. Definitely want to see if some new faces emerge. So again, I'll have all the links to everything that you talked about in the show notes. Any other shout outs or anything else before I let you go, Enchan?
Well, not really right now. Just definitely get ready for a lot of big tournaments that are coming up. There's a lot of people who are starting to make the competitive scene into something, really great. There hasn't really been that much competitive, play, as of late. It's kind of hard to find, all the great players in the game in one spot, that are really going hard every single, week where you can watch them. And a lot of the community and myself are really trying to push tournaments, like not so much just in-game tournaments, but bracketed tournaments to where you'll be able to get, to see the best players in the game face off, to where you'll be able to see very good content. You'll be able to learn from all these great players as well.
Absolutely. Well, man, hats off to you. It's a great goal, and it's something that I totally agree with. So thanks again for coming on, man, and I'd love to have you back again. I thought it was great. And guys out there, if you haven't tuned into Enchatin on Twitch, be sure to do so. You saw the fire and the energy he had when he went over those replays with me. Definitely an entertaining guy, and thanks again, man.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Take care.